What's up, you guys? Welcome to Critique the Critics, the show where we make fun of movie critics. We're gonna take a review of the new movie Dumbo, pick it apart line by line, and just generally make fun of it because reviewers generally don't know what they're doing. But before we get started, if it's your first time here, make sure you hit that subscribe button and the little bell right next to it. That way you can get notified every single time we have a new video out. Now let's take a look at this critic's review of Dumbo. Of the many reasons Disney's recent slew of live-action remakes can be tiresome is that they're mostly doing slight updates on recent classics rather than radical new ideas based on older properties. They're doing live-action remakes of them, and the problem is they're doing live-action remakes of them and not something that's new, not a remake. Wait, what? Also, you said they're doing slight updates to recent classics. Dumbo's a recent classic? It's from like the 30s, isn't it? Or 40s? No, it's like the 40s? It's old. It's not recent. I understand that it's recent, like, according to all of history, because, you know, centuries have gone by. But we've only been making movies at all since, like, what, the late 1800s, if not, like, early 1900s? That's not even recent at all. That's old, really old. So in concept, Dumbo serves as an ideal opportunity for the studio to reinvigorate an animated classic with a modern sense of wonder, and in the hands of Tim Burton, you'd expect the final result to at least be distinctive, if nothing else. Kind of. I mean, you would expect them to do exactly what they've been doing the entire time, which is remaking live-action versions of movies that they've already made, that are supposed to have the same kind of look, feel, and heart of the originals, except not be cartoons. I mean, they've got a track record of what they're doing. Like saying they have an opportunity, they've had an opportunity the whole time to do something different. It's not what they're doing. It's like someone makes a new McDonald's franchise and they're like, it's a real good opportunity for them to start making tacos. Yeah, but they're not going to, because McDonald's isn't making tacos. Just like Disney isn't doing what you're saying right now. And that's very clear, because there's already been, what, 8 of these things? What was the movie you wanted? Dumbo, the Untold Truth? He can't fly, he's an elephant. Or like, Dumbo, falsely accused of a murder. Or like a Shakespeare version of Dumbo where it's like Elephantitis Andronicus. You're welcome. Or like Rumbo. Sylvester Stallone is Rumbo. He can't fly. He can murder the fuck out of everyone and somehow not get shot. I don't know how Rambo does it. Unfortunately, Dumbo is yet another example of a lazy, unnecessary retread of tired ideas. Is Dumbo a tired idea? It's not even like it's been remade. Like, there's one Dumbo. I feel like tired would imply, like, there's been a lot of these. Maybe do something different. Like, a tired idea would be like another Robin Hood, which just happened. That's a tired idea, because how many frickin' Robin Hoods have there been? But there's like one Dumbo movie. Unless I'm mistaken, maybe there's like a couple straight to DVD movies where like Dumbo is for some reason being ridden by Chip and Dale to save some, I don't know. And like Dumbo 3 introduces a new musician elephant named Drumbo. It's like, oh, he's my cousin Drumbo. He could play the drums. And you're like, wow, that's way less impressive than flying, but I guess new character. It's like, have you met my other cousin, Trombone? It kind of sounds like Dumbo. We're out of ideas. Effectively functioning as a remake and a sequel crammed into one movie. It's a remake and a sequel? How is it a sequel? It tells the exact same story. It's not like Nick Fury showed up and was like, I'm putting a team together. Dumbo never quite decides if it wants to be a faithful adaptation of the original or a subversive new take on the concept. It begins as an earnest, if unremarkable, recreation of the 1941 original, but once it reaches the climax of the first film, the film essentially stops and resets itself into an entirely new plot line. I mean, the plot remains the same, essentially, like at the heart. I do find it odd that like this whole review started with you annoyed that they didn't take any chances with this classic because they had such a chance to do it. And now you're like, it started out like it was just gonna be a direct remake, but then they went off the rails by doing something different. Wouldn't that make you pleasantly surprised? Like that, wouldn't that be the thing? Like if you looked at a donut and you're like, oh, I wish there was jelly in that. And then you bit it and you're like, there is jelly, oh my God. Like that's how that works. In this case, you would be like, I wish there is jelly. Like, it's still disappointing. Like, whether you think a Disney movie doing a negative portrayal of a conglomerate buying up and homogenizing original ideas for the masses to be hypocritical or insurrectionist, it's still a confusing and underdeveloped direction to go in. Is it as confusing as that sentence? Jesus. I feel like that's the pot calling the kettle black in that situation. This movie went in a direction where it got a little overblown and confusing. Being told an overblown and confusing sentence is really funny. Kids kids are going to be bored by all the talks about buyouts and layoffs, whilst there's no meat on the bones to make it an effective satire for the adults. I don't think the kids are gonna get annoyed with that. Kids are gonna realize, like, he's a bad man. Those nice people don't have jobs now. Like, that's not hard concepts to understand. In fact, one of the great things about Disney, and especially Pixar, which Pixar has continued, is the idea of you're not an idiot if you're a kid. You can handle mature subjects. You can see pain and joy and death and life and all of these different things in a film and not be so confused. In fact, those are things that we should be showing. The moral lessons and the understanding that, like, not everything's so perfect all the time, and that way we can have a genuine understanding of the good and evil battle and struggle that's going on all the time. Because at the heart of everything, the golden rule should be, don't be a dick. Every religion says don't be a dick in some way or another, so it's a really easy concept to understand. That guy's a dick, those people aren't dicks. Boo! Yay! This kind of commentary on American consumerism, turning wonder into a commodity, is the kind of concept Burton thrived at in his earlier films. But here, he feels more on autopilot than ever. Look, I am the first to agree that this does not entirely seem like a Tim Burton movie, but Tim Burton was called in to make a Disney movie. That's different. It's a Disney property that's being remade. Honestly, if they let him do whatever he wanted, it wouldn't in any way have the feel of all of the other remakes that they were doing. It just wouldn't have made sense. He got to put his own flair in here and there, but yeah, he had to, like, answer to the calling of Disney at some point. You know what's interesting about that is, that's being an adult. That's literally growing up and realizing that, like, sometimes you have to do some stuff. I can't walk into a place trying to get a job with my pants around my ankles while smoking a cigar and putting it out in the face of the person who's trying to hire me and expect to get that job. Sometimes you have to mold yourself into the thing that's going on. It's just how it works. He decided to take it. If he took it for a paycheck, he might have taken it just because he was like, Dumbo was my favorite movie when I was a kid, and I want to do it this way. We have no idea whatsoever, except I do, because I talked to him and he didn't say any of that stuff. He was like, man, I wish Disney let me do what I fucking want. And I was like, calm down, Tim, calm down. And then he put out a cigar in my face and I was like, whoa, Mr. Burton. And he's like, oh, now it's Mr. Burton? 2 seconds ago it was Tim? I was like, I don't go first name basis with people who put cigars out in my face. And he's like, fair enough. The cast assembled for Dumbo is an impressive reunion of Burton regulars with a few new faces. But it's a shame there's not much material for any of them to work with. Yeah, just the plot and the lines. But other than that, nothing. Well, there's also the sets, but nothing and costumes, but nothing after that. Oh, and that fat ass paycheck they all got. I feel like they're working with plenty. I have certainly worked with less and made less. Colin Farrell is the nominal lead as an amputee World War I veteran returning back to the circus, but his impact on the story is minimal and what's there is played out. I need to learn to listen to my kids and be a better father, Pablum. That's played out? I need to learn to be a better father and listen to my kids is played out? That should never be played out. You know, it's also played out, those movies and stories where, like, the husband isn't paying enough attention to his wife and then, like, realizes that he, like, was taking too much time at work and wasn't, like, remembering what's important. Bullshit. Just garbage. Garbage story. Ugh. Or those things where, like, you know, people are trying to inspire children's imaginations or whatever because they're, like, caught the humdrum life of the things that are going on, and by them being inspired to imagine, the parents become better people for it, or bullshit. This is crap. Michael Keaton as the thinly veiled Walt Disney allegory hasn't been this bad since Need for Speed, delivering a baffling and over-the-top villain performance even by Burton standards. At least he gets to deliver the fabulously bizarre line, "You did it, you beautiful one-armed cowboy. You made me a child again." It's really interesting to have, like, a story about a flying elephant where the majority of it takes place in a circus, and you're like, oh, that performance was a little over the top though. It's in a circus. I almost feel like over the top might have come from a circus because of the big top. It probably didn't, but it could be gathered that it did. I'm probably wrong, but, like, if you don't have over the top in a Dumbo story, it's just strange. And I know that what would have happened is if Michael Keaton didn't play it that way, you would have been like, he was a little too reserved and subdued to really be a substantial villain in a Disney property like the classic Dumbo. Because that's what you do. You decide he didn't do enough of this or he did too much of this. There's never like, I enjoyed his performance, or like, this actually fit what was going on. Danny DeVito is forced to rely entirely on his own natural charisma, much like most actors. With a role that doesn't afford him any opportunity to break the mold. Remember, this isn't even the first time he's played a circus ringleader in a Tim Burton movie. It's not weird to like be typecast and do something more than once. That's not strange at all. Listen, if you're Danny DeVito and you get asked to play a circus ringleader, you're not breaking the mold, you are the mold. And the only way to do it differently is to just not cast him. Whilst Eva Green's circus acrobat completely shifts character for no discernible reason other than Dumbo can fly and that is magical. Yeah, because that by definition is magical. She was one way and then saw magic and changed. Which, first off, you have to believe in some manner magic in order for that to work, which is literally Disney. In fact, the first thing you see when you watch a Disney movie is a castle that's in the Magic Kingdom. It makes complete and utter sense. You are a changed person if you go from seeing an elephant to seeing a flying elephant. No matter what, something's gonna change in you. One person got greedy as one person became a much nicer, more loving human being. But no matter what, that is gonna change you for sure. However, by far the actors who fare the worst are newcomers Nico Parker and Finley Hobbins as Farrell's precocious children. This is my favorite part, whenever critics are like, but the kids sucked. That's the best. They're little children acting. They're like, fine performances from everybody else, but f those children. I don't think you should be allowed to critique child performances. I don't think you should be allowed to do it. And if you do, I think you should go like, it should either all be positive or always followed by something positive. You should go, you know, not the best performance, but they did a pretty good job and they were adorable or whatever. Like it should be just leave it at that. But you know, here we f***ing go. They are by far some of the worst child actors I've seen in a mainstream modern film in a while, and the fact they are saddled with a lot of patronizing dialogue that over-explains the plot for the half-asleep kids doesn't help either. Wow. I love how you're like, it's not entirely your fault that you suck. Some of it is the dialogue. Also, I hate when you make up the children being half asleep. How could you know that children were half asleep in the theater unless you are an absolute creep? Because it's not even that they're sleeping, they're half asleep. So you have to like be looking and shining lights on children to be like, yeah, they're almost out. If nothing else, Disney always throws a lot of money behind these live action remakes, and the money spent on Dumbo is clearly on screen. It's just a pity it was all spent on such a lackluster vision. The film's aesthetic looks like deflated Burton, without even the garish audacity of efforts like Alice in Wonderland or Dark Shadows. I can't really think of a way that Tim Burton could have, I guess, Tim Burtoned this without not making a remake. And that's not, and again, that's not what Disney's doing. They're making remakes. Sometimes they're making continuations, but even the continuations, they're making it so that it fits with the original. Mary Poppins Returns has the look, the feel, the style, the music, the dialogue, the everything, so that it could actually continue the story. If Tim Burton got a hold of that, he would have had to do it that way, because it's the only way what they were trying to do works. So personally, I would love to see a Dumbo movie directed by Tim Burton where he could do whatever he wants. But it makes complete sense why we didn't get that. Dumbo goes beyond the mostly forgettable Disney live-action remake, and it's just straight up bad. And not even in a particularly remarkable way. It's just bad, and not in a remarkable way. It's just bad? I don't like that. I don't like this. It's just bad. It feels like the result of an unenthusiastic director working with a lackluster script under the eye of a studio more concerned with marketing the film than making it. I don't agree with the more concerned with marketing than making it. I think that they made it with the intention. They wanted to make this film to be similar to the movie. We've gone through this several times in this video. It's very clear that they are just remaking the thing with very little changes, trying to make it fit into a live action scenario. There are a lot of things that they had to change and make happen. They didn't make Dumbo get drunk in this movie because there are changes that had to be made, but those minute changes were just minute changes. The rest of the stuff, they're not gonna completely change because that's not their intention. Also, to think that you can actually see whether or not there is enthusiasm in a director makes you pretty narcissistic. That's a lot of hubris to think that you can see the enthusiasm of a director based on what you're watching. That's nonsense. It may not be Tim Burton's worst picture, but it is easily his laziest, and not even the charms of its impressive cast and remnants of classic Disney magic can save it. What makes you think this is lazy? Unenthusiastic and lazy are really, really hard words to describe a director when you just see the movie. Like, did the story not get told? Like, where are you seeing the lack of enthusiasm and the laziness? All of the stuff that directors do definitely happened. We've got 3 more of these movies this year alone, with Aladdin, The Lion King, and Maleficent, Mistress of Evil. So I think the best I can say about Dumbo is that it at least sets the bar pretty low for those to come. I would like to say this: 1, 2 of those are remakes. One of them isn't even a remake, it's a sequel to a movie that was made about a character in a movie. Maleficent isn't a remake. So you can't even put that into this conversation at all, based on all the stuff you're saying. Because no matter what that movie does, it's gonna be doing something fresh and new. And it doesn't support any of the arguments that you've been making. The other 2 movies are direct remakes, and I assure you that they're not gonna go off the rails with their vision. They're gonna make the movie again, but live action and modernized. That's what they're doing. And we can tell because they've done it so many times. And for you to want something different after they've literally said, this is what we're doing, and like released a schedule of like, and here's when we're doing it. The fact that you want something different is absolutely crazy. In fact, psychiatrists would say it's the definition of crazy. But don't take my word for it. Well, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, make sure you hit that subscribe button and the little bell right next to it. Also, be sure to check us out on Twitch. There's a link in the description. We actually record this and our other shows live every single week, and you can hang out with us doing that and a bunch of other things throughout the week. So make sure you check that out. And until we see you next time, geek out and game on.